Well, this week I'm on the campus of the Pontifical University of Parana in Curitiba in Brazil, and I'm here for the Global Network for Public Theology conference or consultation that's taking place, hosted by my friend Professor Rudolf von Sinner. And it's absolutely fantastic to be here on this campus. I mean, it's an absolutely stunning place, and always great to be back in beautiful Brazil. So the theme of our conference this year, or our consultation this year, focuses on the built environment, and particularly the notion of how we inhabit spaces as persons on the earth. You know, how we envision them with our identities and our ideas, how we believe that the world should look, and how we construct the world around us. I mean, I think, for example, about a space like this, you know, the fact that there are buildings around me, that there are artworks, beautiful artworks and murals around us. All of these things are conceived within the imagination of individuals and communities. And of course, this space looks in some ways very similar to other universities and campuses that I've been on around the world, but it also is slightly different. It has a particular Brazilian flavor to it, which is absolutely lovely. And of course, that's an expression of the social identities, the beliefs even of the persons who have contributed towards the construction of this space, the people who conceived of it, who designed it, who built it, and the people who now inhabit it. You know, the students behind me here who are walking between classes and lectures, and I've seen quite a few of them playing cards and just enjoying this beautiful space. Now, one of the things that we recognize is that these kinds of environments are not only constructed of buildings, but also they're very often filled with the kind of artifacts that we envision for ourselves. And so part of what I spoke about this week was the concept of banning the national flag in our churches. Now, behind this idea is some of South Africa's very painful history. So during the apartheid era in South Africa, we had a national flag that symbolized everything that was wrong with South Africa's social construction. The symbol, the flag of the apartheid government, was a symbol of oppression, of prejudice, of white supremacy, and of black subjugation and abuse. And so in 1985, the Methodist Church of Southern Africa decided that they would ban the flag from all Christian churches. We didn't want that flag, that symbol of oppression, to be in the sanctuary, a place of worship, a place of connection with God, a place in which we recognize that God has created us in diversity, bearing God's image, and so equal to one another. And we didn't want that symbol of oppression, that symbol of brokenness, to dominate that particular space. However, what happened was in 1994, after the first democratic elections in South Africa, when the political apartheid certainly was abolished, and many of us who had worked for the deconstruction of the evils of apartheid were so overjoyed to see the dawning of what was then called the new South Africa. And we had a new flag. It was unstained by the sins of our past. It hadn't yet been blemished by what had happened. And so many South Africans, clergy amongst them, said, is the ban on the flag in our churches now to be lifted? Can we present our new hopeful flag that's a symbol of our liberation and freedom in our churches? And of course, the answer to that was no. We shouldn't allow the flag in our churches. Number one, because we know that nations and states are transient, that any political party eventually opens itself up to some form of abuse and brokenness. Secondly, of course, and that's not a pessimistic view, it's just realist. Secondly, of course, is the notion that the flag is the banner of Caesar and not the banner of Christ. And we don't want to elevate the banner of Caesar, who is given the charge, the responsibility of managing the welfare and the common good of the citizens, any particular kind of religious significance, as if God somehow loves South Africans more than God may love Zimbabweans. The third thing was, of course, that those who were more realist recognized that there would come a time where even this new flag would, in some senses, embody some of the brokennesses of what it means to live in a society, to be able to try and figure out how we should live our lives. And here we are, since 1994, 28 years later, and the flag of South Africa now bears some of the blemishes of human rights abuses. I think, for example, about Marikana, the massacre that took place there. The ways in which homeless persons and poorer persons in society are treated, and the ways in which persons who are privileged continue to find favor, how the state, for example, through the Constitution has protected certain privileges like white privilege, economic privilege. And so this new flag now bears some of the stains of the complexity of our political life. So while you're watching this, you may ask, well, Dion, does that mean that democracy itself as a project is doomed to failure? And my answer to that would be no. I think democracy is fairly important, not because it gives us the power to elect leaders into responsibility, but more so because the democratic rights of citizens in a society give us the right to remove people from power. Now, one of the greatest showings of democracy is that moment after a national election where an incumbent ruler or party discovers that they no longer have the support of the people and someone else is elected with the kind of hopes and ambitions that we have for all servant leaders, that they will serve us well, and that the incumbent packs their bags and recognizes that their time has come and either moves to the side or finds a way to say, as I move from power, I need to reform my governance and my ways of being. And that, of course, is part of the promise of democracy. So it's not that democracy in any sense is sanctioned as biblically appropriate, but there are some theological tenets that have to do with the dignity of individuals, their right to be able to express themselves, and of course the ways in which individuals in a community can express their discerned and collective will to choose the kinds of leaders that we hope will fulfill the promise that God has for humanity and for society. So that's a little bit of what I focused on this week, that we should never allow the banner of Caesar to be raised next to the cross, the banner of Christ. And that for those of us who are Christian, we should recognize that our allegiance to our nation, our patriotism, of course, that's an acceptable thing. You can be a patriot of your nation, but you should be a patriot of a different kind. Your desire should be to see the achievement of the common good, the recognition and the enactment of justice in your society. And when a particular political party or dispensation doesn't fulfill that will, that's when we need to exercise our right to vote those individuals out of power, to form collectives to see that justice is served, sometimes through the democratic processes, but sometimes even to work to see that those democratic processes are enacted. Well, thanks for watching. I'm going to move back to our sessions now, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the use of symbols and artifacts within our religious spaces and environments? What do you think? Should the flag be allowed in the Christian church? How do you think Christians should think about things like national identity and patriotism? Do you think I'm missing anything there? And I'd love to hear your thoughts and your experience, particularly if you are from elsewhere in the world, outside of South Africa, which is my primary context. I'd love to hear how you think about this. So you can do so by leaving a comment below this video, or dropping a note on my social media at Digital Dion on Twitter or Instagram, or on Facebook, Dion A. Forster, or my website, dionforster.com. So thanks for watching, and I appreciate it very much, and would be grateful if you'd like the video and if you would subscribe.